So what do you call yourself? Welcome to the LaTangela Show. Hey.
Hey, what can I do for you this fine day?
This is your destiny.
Hot, hot, hot. Right now.
Welcome to the LaTangela Show.
Kick it.
Come on in and enjoy yourself.
Right now.
We gon' party like no one else. Welcome to the LaTangela Show.
Hey.
Good morning, or good afternoon, I should say.
How are you?
I am well. How about you?
I'm holding on.
All we can do.
We're in
All
trouble
we
with
can
the week. And you know, I'm always super excited when I get my Chris Woolsey in the hot seat and on the tan line. It's something warm and fuzzy, you know, it's like a piece of comfort. If there's something that's going on, he has something that can help you unplug, unwind, and just take it away. If you want something that's going to be a comedy, he got it. Something that's a documentary to make you dig deeper, he got it. Or even if it's one of those box office thrillers, he got it all. As the Senior Communications Director for Crackle, Redbox, and Chicken Soup for the Soul, you got a lot going on. So how do you find time to pick your favorites?
I have to be really strategic with my time usage. That is for sure. You get about 10 minutes to pull me in, and if it doesn't happen, I'm moving on. So you know, when I recommend things to you, LaTangela, you know that it's the goods.
I love it because, you know, I'm a stickler with that too. You got to stick and move, stick and move. If you don't suck me in, it's just like, it's going to be a long drawn out 2 hours, and who has 2 hours to waste, right?
Absolutely. For sure.
The good thing is you have all of these free streaming services, and there's something for everyone. So let's kick it off with one of my faves. Dear Redbox, I love you, and I know you have something special for me.
We do. So, you know, I always try to pick a theme when we talk whenever possible. And so I was just looking over everything, what we've talked about, what we haven't talked about this month. And I was like, we have a lot of really good classic TV on our streaming services. And talking about comfort, there's something about watching a show that you maybe watched from a previous time in your life. And there's something special about that. And so I put together for all three streaming services to talk about today in terms of classic TV.
I'm loving it.
All right. So, and there's a even more topical reason that we'll get to when we get to Crackle. But for now, Redbox has some great classic TV titles this month. We have this was one of my favorites when I was in high school, 21 Jump Street. I know that a lot of people know it from the kind of the comedic movie reboot that they did. But back when I was in my heyday, this was gritty police drama at its best.
Okay, so 21 Jump Street, it's here.
Yes.
Redbox has it, and they're giving it to us like nobody else.
That's right. And this launched the careers of Johnny Depp, Holly Robinson Peete, Peter DeLuise, Dustin Nguyen from This Is Us. And I don't know if you remember Richard Grieco, but he played one. So they were all young detectives who were so young that they could be sent into high schools and colleges, and they would investigate crimes that were being done in sort of a youthful setting. So they were older than they appeared, but they were actual police detectives on the show.
So we're actually watching the jumpstart of some of our favorites in the early parts of their career.
Yes, exactly. Like Johnny Depp. I think this was his like second acting job or some ridiculous thing. Nicolas Cage got him the audition or got him his agent, and this was like the first thing that he did. And yeah, it's crazy. And then obviously went on to a gigantic career. Holly Robinson Peete from Hang with Mr. Cooper, another classic TV favorite. But it's funny because Richard Grieco was on the show, and he was like the hot ticket for like a second. But I was looking him up when I was researching this. So he did If Looks Could Kill, which was like this super cheesy 80s spy movie. And then seemingly fell off the grid I looked him up. The guy's been working constantly. I saw him at Comic-Con last year and talked to him for a second. And the guy works all the time. So all of these people, you know, Peter DeLuise was in all the Stargate series. They all went on to have gigantic careers, but this was a big deal for the time.
I love it. And I know that Redbox is bringing it to us. If you haven't seen it, you need to check it out. The free streaming network service is always bringing us the best when it comes to entertainment. So 21 Jump Street, what we got?
Okay, so another, and this is a really niche show. I don't know if you remember this. I remember it because my sisters were obsessed with it, particularly my older sister. So, you know, there's a billion vampire movies and TV shows out there now. Well, this was maybe the first. So this was called Dark Shadows. And this was a daytime horror-themed soap opera that was it was a daytime soap, just like with Young and the Restless and One Life to Live, and then Dark Shadows. It was about the Collins family who lived in Collinsport, Maine, and they had this gigantic estate and this huge palatial mansion that they lived in, but they were constantly haunted by supernatural events. I mean, they had
get out of here.
yeah, seriously. So they had vampires, werewolves, ghosts, witches, zombies, time travel, parallel dimensions. It was the weirdest show. Well, it shot to the top. It quickly became the most popular daytime drama of its day, and it ran from 1966 to 1971, and it was kind of a sleeper hit, slow burn. It was very niche, but it was interesting. The huge audience was teenage kids. They would come home, and their parents weren't really watching it that much, but the teenagers, because it had such themes, they were all watching it. And then they made a movie, and the kids all took their parents to go see the movie because they couldn't get in by themselves. And then when the parents saw what they were watching, they were like, what? And so
what is this? Who are you? What is this?
Exactly. So then once the movie came out, viewership dropped dramatically on the show, unfortunately, because parents started cracking down. But it is a beloved, if you Google Dark Shadows, a million fan sites will pop up. In fact, they're trying, I have a friend that I went to junior high with who's a producer, and she's trying to reboot the series right now. So
I think now would be the ultimate time for her to reboot that. I mean, hey, crazier the better.
Yep. That's for sure. And speaking of crazy, I've got one of the craziest shows. So this was when I was in college. This was a big hit. I don't know if you are familiar with the Canadian sketch TV show, The Kids in the Hall. So this ran from 88 to 94, and it was kind of a SNL type sketch comedy show. But these guys, it's five guys: Dave Foley from News Radio, Mark McKinney from Superstore, Kevin McDonald from Sky High, Bruce McCullough, and Scott Thompson. And they were five Canadian comedians who came together. They had been doing stage sketch comedy for years, and then HBO approached them and said, do you want to do a sketch comedy TV show? And it was produced by Lorne Michaels, so it was obviously created by one of the biggest names in the business.
Yeah.
And it is insane. Like the characters, any crazy character that you see on SNL, just multiply that times 100, and that's what the Kids in the Hall came up with. It was so not safe for work. It was so crazy. Like some of their characters were just crazy inappropriate. The chicken lady, they had a guy on there, the guy, I crush your head, I will crush your head. They're just the weirdest. This reoccurring character who's this insane boss that runs this corporation and is always making the most lunatic decisions ever. But again, if you Google, they rebooted it in 2017, I believe, 2018. And I'm not sure if it's still in production, the reboot or not, but you've got to watch it. Like some of the most amazing sketch comedy. Some of it was hysterically funny, and then they would do other things that were like kind of like SNL, where you're like, is this an art piece? I don't know what I'm watching. This is the weirdest thing in the world, but super talented, and they all went on to have gigantic careers and stayed friends, and they're still doing sketch comedy to this day. So
I love it. And you never know. Now we're starting to see where a lot of the stuff that we're watching today actually stemmed from. So that's why I love it when you bring like these old schools and the reboots back. Like, okay, now I get it. So
Absolutely.
Redbox is definitely hitting the scene for that. And I know with Crackle, you're doing something pretty awesome. We're talking about some of the originals. What you got for me?
So we were saying, you know, with classic TV and why it's so topical. I don't know if you know, but today is Carol Burnett's 90th birthday.
Yes,
yes, you got
I'm so
it.
glad we had this time together.
Oh, oh, my heart.
And listen, shameless plug, you know she's a Taurus, right?
Ah, that's so funny.
Love her. She is such a legend.
She really is. I mean, she paved the way really for almost every female comedian that's out there today. And you watch the things that she did, and she was, I mean, all of them, Harvey Korman and Tim Conway and her, I mean, they were light years ahead of everybody else that was out there. And the neat, and they have 11, they went for 11 seasons, and we have all 11 seasons on Crackle. You can watch all of it for free. Yeah, it's like literally hundreds of episodes. And you know, the guest stars, I had forgotten. Oh, and of course I forgot to mention Vicki Lawrence on there as well.
Hello, somebody.
Who went on, you know, to create Mama's Family, and
my favorite show of all times, might I add. Listen, Mama's Family, I was like the honorary member of the family. I cried when it went out of production, when they took it off air. I used to go to bed after Mama's Family. That was my bedtime. It came on late. They didn't have to tell me anything. I'd watch Mama's Family. I just say my good nights, kiss everybody, and go to bed. But Mama's Family was it for me. And Carol Burnett, Mom, see, you know.
My mother and sisters were gigantic Carol Burnett fans, so we watched both shows religiously. It was amazing. But going back, I had forgotten how many unbelievable guest stars that they had on that show. So not only was the regular cast geniuses, but they had Betty White, Steve Martin, Liza Minnelli, Lucille Ball, Jim Nabors, George Carlin. I mean, it was like a who's who of 70s comedy on the show. It was unbelievable.
And they stayed rolling.
Yeah. And we just want to celebrate her amazing. I mean, she's still working. I don't know if you saw this last season of Better Call Saul. She had like a 4-episode arc, and it was mind-blowing genius. I mean, the woman is 90 and still just ridiculously relevant. So
every ounce of it, she loves it, you know.
Yeah, and that's what she talked about. She said, they said, you know, how did you do 11 seasons? And she said, when you're working with your best friends, you can do anything as long as you want. Like, she just said it was literally like we would just get together and hang out for 8 hours a day and just do what we thought was funny. And so
it looks like it too, you know.
So we have so many of the classic segments where they couldn't keep a straight face. There's the original Mama's Family where they're playing the game Sorry.
Yeah.
And Vicki Lawrence starts picking on Carol Burnett, and you can tell that she had never run the jokes by her. And Carol Burnett literally just covers her face and turns away from the camera because she just can't keep it together. I mean, the dentist sketch, the oldest firefighter, the slow butcher. I mean, all of those, you just see their faces. Apparently, the first time Tim Conway did the slow butcher and he's shuffling across the floor, he hadn't told anybody in the entire studio that he was going to do that. And he looked up into the director's booth, and the window was empty because everyone had fallen on the floor. They were laughing too hard to stand. And one of them raised their hand above the window and just gave him a thumbs up, like, keep going, keep going. Like,
you're good here.
Yeah, they're amazing. So Carol Burnett Show, you got to check it out. Help Carol celebrate her 90th.
I love it.
Another classic with insane star power that we also have all the run of is, did you ever see Dean Martin's Celebrity Roast?
Yes. Wait a second.
We have all of them. And I watched a bunch of them yesterday to get ready for this. Oh my gosh, they said things on that show that you could not say today without there being quite the backlash.
Somebody being offended and upset and the show getting canceled, right?
Oh my gosh. Between Don Rickles and Red Fox, I don't think there was a single person in that room and audience. Yeah, it's unbelievable. But the guests that they roasted, well, first of all, the roasters, they had Danny Thomas, Milton Berle, Don Rickles, Phyllis Diller, Wilt Chamberlain, Nipsey Russell, Dionne Warwick, Art Carney. I mean, it was like
the list goes on and it gets better and better. It's just like when you said Danny Thomas, this guy is another one of those geniuses that just did so much, and you can't help but love it. So you have the entire season for that. One thing that I do love is the fact that on all of your streaming services that it's free, but it's something that the families can sit down and enjoy together. Yep. And I know that with Chicken Soup for the Soul, you have at least one of those good ones that's just going to retch out for us.
Okay, so sticking to our classic TV, we have The Partridge Family. So that was
one of my mom's favorites.
Yeah, so you had, and I didn't realize when I was looking this up, you had the Brady. They were always sort of judged against the Brady Bunch, and I love both shows. But The Partridge Family, rewatching it, it's a little more advanced, the humor, than sort of the simplicity of the Brady Bunch. They're both great, but they ran next to each other, so it was like the 8 o'clock hour on Friday nights. I guess both of the shows ran back to back, and Shirley Jones had originally been offered the part of Carol Brady, but she turned it down because she said she didn't want her career to be about pulling a roast out of the oven every Friday evening. And so, Shirley Jones, it's the story of a young family. She's a widower, doesn't quite know what she's going to do with her life. The kids are these singing phenoms, and they decide to record a song in their garage. Mom comes in to help, and lo and behold, they end up becoming this like hit sensation, and they go on tour, and it's all about the family becoming this rock and roll sensation. But you had Shirley Jones, David Cassidy, Susan Day, who went on to have a gigantic career, Danny Bonaducci, who also was in the news a lot there for a while, not for such great reasons. And then Dave Madden, who played Reuben Kincaid, their manager. But again, crazy guest stars. They had Ray Bolger, Jodie Foster, Mark Hamill from Star Wars. They had Dick Clark, Rob Reiner, and Farrah Fawcett, for crying out loud, before she did Charlie's Angels.
I love it. And I thought I was going to get the opportunity to do all of my binging with the Cara Burnett show, but now that you said this is available, you just told it to my mom, so I see what I'll be binge watching with her. And that's why you're the real MVP. You have those classics and even some of the new things that can bring families together. And that's why it's so important that we get you in the hot seat and on the tan line, because I always need my Chris binges updates. So listen, I'll see you back next week. We have more.
We're going to talk about we're going to talk about everything coming in May. So we got a lot to talk about.
I love it, and I love you, and there's absolutely nothing you can do about it.
Wouldn't if I could. Thanks, LaTangela.